Sen Pi. Let's go ahead. I've already done it once. Pretend it was the first time. This is what I use for emulation, and there is a new version of Batocera out, which is based on RetroArch. So what we're going to do is we're going to put Batocera on here. I'm going to show you how easy it is. All you need is your Sen Pi. You're going to need an SD card, and then you're going to need to head over to noticemesenpi.com for the directions. It's extremely easy, so let's walk through it. And after you're done, you're going to be playing everything from DOS to N64 on your Sen Pi. The Sen Pi is a little bit faster than the Raspberry Pi 4, slightly faster, so it'll do a better job at emulating, especially when it comes to like PlayStation and some of the things that run a little slow on the Raspberry Pi. It's not quite as fast as like the Odroid. I believe it's the N+, but that one's quite a bit more expensive. So depending on the version of the Sen Pi you get, you can either get 1 or 2 controllers. Now these controllers work as Xbox controllers, or they can also work as direct input controllers. And what changes that is by holding down the home button here in the middle. So if you plug it in and it just shows up as a generic controller or whatever, it's just reading the I guess whatever it is, just hold down the home button for like 4 seconds, and then on the screen you'll see it switch. There's an on and off button on the back, and make sure you charge this for about 8 hours before you use it the first time. If you want to make sure it's charging, you can just turn it on and see if the lights are blinking, and that means yes, it's got a signal, it's doing things. You can turn it back off and just let it charge. All right, so let's head over to noticemesenpi.com and let's scroll on down. You can see here all the stuff we can do. Shows you where to buy it. But right here, there's a link that says install Batocera. Once you get to Batocera's website, I've got it all big so you can see it. You just click on Get Batocera. So here's all the stuff you can install this on. A lot of different things. I like these, Odroids and stuff. There's all the Raspberry Pis. And then we're down here under the S905X is what we have. So click on that, and it will download a zipped up image. So go ahead and download that. I'm just going to hit Open With, and then put it into a folder on my desktop. But you need to extract this into a folder on your desktop. Next up, let's grab a copy of Etcher. Now, Etcher is what takes the image file that we just got from Batocera and puts it onto your SD card. So grab a copy of Etcher and install that. All right, so I've got them both here, just in a folder on my desktop. There's the image file that we just got from Batocera, and this will be different depending on the hardware you have. I can only support what I've got here. So if you want me to support something else, send me an Odroid or send me a Raspberry Pi. I'll take a look at it. Why not? All right, so open up Etcher, and then we're going to flash from file. I can just drag and drop this file right onto Etcher. And there it is. There's my Batocera image. It's looking for a target. Put your SD card into your reader and then plug that in. Okay, now we're going to select target, and we're going to select the memory card we just put in there. All of the portable media that you have plugged up, USB drives and stuff, they're all going to show up here. So if there's more than one thing, be careful. Make sure you click on the correct one. So I know that this is the only thing in there, so I'm going to select that. And then I'm going to click flash. When I do that, some stuff's going to pop up. It's going to do a few things. Just hit OK or ignore whatever, and we'll go through it. Right here, there's a command prompt thing that pops up. That's why the screen went black. So I clicked yes. This, when it says insert disk, ignore that. What it's doing is it's formatting 2 partitions, one for Linux and one for just files you can access via FAT32. So if you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. Just let it do its thing. Whenever something pops up, you can hit OK or whatever. I'm going to go ahead and get my Sen Pi ready while we're flashing that. I'm going to plug in my wireless receiver here. Just need one right now. You can also plug up a mouse and a keyboard. This is going to be great because DOSBox Pure is now a part of this. So if you want to play old DOS games, you've got mouse and keyboard. Also ScumVM, like the old LucasArts adventure games, can all be played right here with quick save. Well, on DOSBox Pure. So when it comes to ROMs, it's best to look for ROMs that are called no intro. That's really all I'm going to say about ROMs. You can find them here and there, but just look for no intro. Those work best. But most ROMs should work. Okay, it's finishing up here. It's validating. Let it go through the entire validation process. I'm going to hit skip, but let it go through it. Just make sure that everything's on there correctly. We can close Etcher now. I'm going to unplug and replug the SD card. So Windows will say, hey, what's up? Just to show you what happens. If you put it in, it's always going to come up with this little error and ask you to format. Do not format this, because it's created a little Linux partition and Windows cannot read that. Windows doesn't need to read that. Windows will never be able to read that. Do not click format. That will destroy everything that you've worked so hard for. That'll happen whenever you put this into Windows, but you won't have to. You're not going to have to do it again. All right, so I've opened up my Batocera drive just to show you what's on here. We're going to install this. If you're using something that's not a Sen Pi, this may apply to you. You may have to come in here and change out this DTB file. And that is if you're using a different device. But luckily, by default, this DTB file works perfectly. So if you own the Sen Pi, nothing to do. Otherwise, there are other DTB files. You may see them in there for different boards. For most Raspberry Pis and stuff, it should just work. Anyway, it's time to take it out and put it into the Sen Pi. We're going to go through our one-time installation, and then after that, it's smooth sailing. So let's do it. Okay, I'm going to put my memory card in, so I can do it without looking. It's a bit difficult, but there we go. There, it's going to live here, and I would recommend a bigger memory card than this because you can put all your ROMs on here. I'm just doing this for the sake of showing it off, but I would prefer like a 64 or a 128. There we go. All right, you also want to plug up your HDMI. This is going to put a lot of drag on there. So there's the HDMI. Look out. You know what, I'm going to unplug it, but just plug up your HDMI. You can plug up your Ethernet as well. So that'll go in, just plug it into the top here, all these different ports. So you can go ahead and plug in your Ethernet, your HDMI. Don't plug it in yet, because the first time you plug it in, we need to tell this device to boot from the SD card. And it's very easy to do. I mean, it's a bit difficult to hold, but you need to get a paper clip or something. Inside this, it's difficult to see, inside the SP diff port right here, that's the one beside the USB, there's a reset button. You need to hold that down when you plug in the device for the first time. Put your paper clip in there, you'll feel the button, you can feel it. Press and hold it down, and then you plug in your power. And after a couple of seconds, you can just let it go. So this screen will come up after a few seconds. Batocera is installing. Just leave it alone, don't touch it, and wait. It'll reset, like it just did. Hey, look, it's discovering my collections. Nothing on there right now, but this is the first time installation. Just give it a second and we'll be on the Batocera interface. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my wireless controller. And look there, here we are. You can see we've got all our different systems here. Not bad. If you want to bring up the menu, you could just press the start button. It brings up the menu. And then the select button will bring up the menu for whatever you're in. So let's say we go over here to Mega Drive. And there we go, press that. And now if I want to bring up just the menu for the Mega Drive, I'm going to hit select. Oops, that start selects over here. And that'll bring up the menu just for the Mega Drive. All right, so let's get some games on here, then we'll come back and look at this. So I opened up my run command on my Windows computer. And I'm going to type //Batocera. And this works the same way on your Macintosh. BATOCERA, all caps, press enter, and look, share, what's this? So you click on this, and oh, it's all the stuff. So this is, you're looking at the Sen Pi directories right now. So your ROM directory, check this out. Here's all the systems that you have access to. When you go inside each system, there's an info.txt file that'll be at the top because it's _info, and it tells you the formatting and it tells you where to put things. It's so awesome. So I know for all my Scum VM games, I know how to set them up. Most of it's pretty easy, and most of the times you won't even need to look at that. But let's say I wanted to put some Super Nintendo on, we can scroll down to the SNES folder, look at the info.txt. It says that it recognizes all these types of files. Just note that some emulators don't like zip files. So if you throw some zip files on there and it doesn't recognize them, you could just unzip them and throw them in there in their normal file formats for whatever the ROMs are. So anyway, we can throw the ROMs on there that way. But first, I kind of want to change the splash screen that's in this folder here. So you can put different splash screens. This is when you first turn on your system. And I like to use the Sen Pi splash screen, but you can put anything you like in there, 1080p. It's supposed to be a PNG, so just remember that. So here's the one I use as my background. If you just click on this, it'll show you the full size. And I'm just going to go ahead and throw that into my Sen Pi folder. Just going to put the Sen Pi boot screen in there. And this is just fun. It's not necessary. I'm going to put some ROMs in, then we'll come back. I'm putting a few games on there. I'll also mention that there is a BIOS folder here. So these are all your game BIOS files. And if you look online, they don't include them because the BIOS usually has stuff they just can't attach or can't install with this. So you need to throw some BIOS files in there for the different systems. And if you want to grab that, you can just look up Batocera BIOS and you'll find a link to be able to download some BIOS files. So I dropped some ROMs into the different folders. And now if you wanted to, you could put some music in there, whatever. Note that there's also Kodi that's part of this installation. and Kodi is like gonna take care of all your media. So if you want to use this as a streaming box for, you know, media, by all means do it. And now I'm gonna scan my game. So how do I do that? Well, I just press the start button here. That brings this up. Go to my game settings, and then I'm gonna go to update games list. And just say okay. Cool. All right, so now we found our games. Now you can see we have way more. But when you click on them, it's just this. That's ugly, right? We don't like that. So let's get some thumbnails. Let's get some box art going and stuff. I like to show my box art. So when I go to my UI settings, I come to theme configuration, and then down under my game list, view style, I do boxes. You can put it on whatever you like if you want it to do something else, whatever. So see here, we've still got nothing there. So let's hit the start button, and you want to go down to scrape. Screen Scraper is the best place to get them, but if you've downloaded a bunch, you're going to hit your quota. So I'm not even going to try without putting in my name and password. How do I get that? Well, you can just go over to the internet. I'm going to hop onto my Windows computer really quick. Screenscraper.fr. Right here, you can click on register. It's in French, but you can see it, right? You can see it. Click on register and make an account. And make the password something that's easy to remember. So after you finished registering your account, you can just do that here. After you have your username and password, you can click here and enter it in. So I've got that in now. Hit scrape. You don't have to select all the systems, but I've got all of them selected. And then we can just hit start. It's going to take a second. It's going to connect to the internet, log in, and start scraping. And this can take a few minutes. So all of our box art is finished. Oh, there it is. Look at that. Bunch of box art. Pretty boxes. Oh, look, we got the vertical Japanese boxes. Those are pretty. That's so much cooler. And it seems to, I guess they seem to have just about everything except for the PC98. Come on. How about the DOS boxes? We did a pretty good job with DOS. You know, ScumVM. Oh, yes. There's that full throttle box. I keep forgetting it's one of the ones that's not vertical. Oh, there it is in all of its glory. I don't know how I got this one for $20 unopened at like a thrift store. Why was this there? Anyway, so yeah, that works really nicely. And that's how you get all your boxes going and stuff. It even works with the arcade games. Arcade games didn't really have boxes, but you know, we've got artwork for them and stuff. Batocera uses something really cool called a hotkey, and on your Xbox controller and your PlayStation controller, it already knows that the middle button is your hotkey, but for some reason it doesn't know that on this controller. So what we're going to do is press the start button to bring up the menu, and then we'll go to our controller settings. I plugged up a keyboard to help me out with this, so I'm going to go ahead, click on Configure Controller. It'll tell you to push a button on the controller you want to configure, so I'm going to press a button on this one. Now, don't press anything until you're ready. You see, it's up, down, left, right. This is the D-pad, so just press up, down, left, right. Start, select, and the layout is like a Super Nintendo controller. So it's, even though it says B over there, it's the corner button that's going to be there. Left analog up, left analog left, right analog up, right analog left. You make sure you don't confuse that. And then my L and R. Well, actually, we do have an L3. We have the depress button, so we can click and then click. And then our hotkey here. Make sure you press the home button for your hotkey. Very important. And we're done. And let me show you why we did that. When we go into a game, there's all kinds of cool things we can do with these hotkeys. So let's go into like, okay, there we go, Super Nintendo. Now check this out. I can hold down my home button, and I just pressed home button, and this button, and that saves. This button loads. So if I hit A, go to one player, and then I load, it takes me right back here. I mean, you kind of cheat with the quick save and the quick load, you know, but if you wanted to try different things, you can set different quick save and quick loads. Like hold this button down and then press your up and down button, and you can see there it's selecting different save slots. Don't hold the button down too long, because remember, it'll change this controller into a different controller. So I'm on save slot 2 now. I'm going to save slot 2 here, and then I'm going to save slot 1 over here. Save. So watch me. I'm going to select save slot 2, and I'm going to load. I'm over here now. You got to get used to the buttons because you're going to save scum yourself. All right. Save the game right here. Why not? And let's reload. And loaded, and I'm right back here. So quick save and quick load are going to save you a lot of time. Now, if you want to get out of the game, you hold down the hotkey and then press start. And that pulls you out of the game. Now, say you need to change some of the settings for just this game or just this system. You press the select button when you're inside the system menu or inside the, whatever system you're wanting to play. And then you can come in and pick the emulator that you're going to be using. I like leaving this on auto unless something is wrong. If something's wrong, you can come in and try different emulators to see if one of them works better than the other one. But if it all works, then leave it alone. Also, your video modes and stuff, you can change them to different resolutions. And you'll need to do this on like the Nintendo 64 and stuff. So let's show you what that looks like. Because the Nintendo 64 is probably a bit too needy for a lot of things, but some games will work just fine. So let's go over and take a look at, let's do, how about some Majora's Mask? Start a file here. Not terribly slow. Whatever, I don't care what his name is. Yes, help us with the space after the, yes. Close it because it's running too slow. How can we make it run faster? Well, press select, go down to advanced system options. Emulator, you want to select Mupin. The Mupin plus Glide MK2 is a little faster. Game ratio. You can set up config files on your device if you wanted to. I'm going to leave it auto. Video mode. Just going to go low as we can go. Go. Frame skip. Auto detect. See what that does. So you can come in and mess with this stuff so you get something that works. So we can try this and see if it's any faster. Reloading the save I did by, pressing buttons on my controller. Now you won't always get a confirmation message in the emulator. Some emulators have them that pop up and say like, oh, you saved the game or whatever. This one doesn't. The beginning of every Zelda game is basically you pressing the A button for 20 minutes. That's how they all begin. But if it's your first time playing, you're like, ooh. Really forgot how good this game looks. That probably needs to be a little bit lower res, but it feels okay right now. I'm gonna go ahead and save it so I can come back in. Also, it's running in widescreen. Okay. Let me just make sure I saved. I like to run away a little bit and then reload. Okay, yeah, I saved and it reloaded right there, so that's good. At this point in time, you're done. You can go in and add all the ROMs and stuff, but if you want to like feel your way around and figure out the configurations yourself, by all means. I do think you should stick around just to see the configuration of the controller, but that's it. Now let's really take a look at the operating system and see what all we can do. If you'd rather this say TurboGrafx, you can come over to the menu in your UI and you can change it somewhere in here to be the US version instead of the EU version. So it'll say PC, it'll say TurboGrafx 16 and it'll say Genesis instead of Mega Drive, but I'm like, whatever. I kind of like it like that. Let me show you the updates and downloads section. This is particularly cool. There are a bunch of like free games and hacked ROMs and stuff that you can get, and you can just download them right here. But there's a one particular thing I want to show you. Solaris, there it is. Solaris is a fan-made engine that is essentially linked to the past, like the Super Nintendo. So I'm going to install this, 10 megabytes. Now we've got a Solaris game, and you can get other Solaris games online. You should check out Solaris. If you like Link to the Past, there's some pretty good ones on there. So there's Solaris, Sana's Revenge. Let's try it out. Well then, what have I downloaded? Sana was expelled for cause for every false accusation. I have no idea what this is about, so if it's about something bad, I have no idea. This is blasphemy. I didn't start in bed. Okay, it's an anime Zelda game. Alright, great. Well, there's a lot of them that use the traditional Zelda tiles and stuff, but whatever. You can download those. Also in the download center, you just go ahead and back out of here, hit my start button, and go down to updates and downloads. So also in here, we can go to themes and we can download new themes. So let's just, let's grab one. Try this one, install it. You can try them out, delete them if you don't like them. This one's a little big. Oh, it's probably too big to fit on my memory card. I've got this thing crammed full of stuff. I quickly have to run and delete a few ROMs. We can go back, go to our UI settings, and we have a choice of themes. Let's try it out and see what happens. When I go back, it's going to refresh. Oh. I think I like the other way better, but whatever. Just a different theme, different options. We got a lot of different options. This one's a little slower because it's got a lot going on. Last thing I'm going to show you. I could go on forever. Let me just... there's something here called Kodi Media Center. What happens when I press this button? All right, we're leaving Batocera now. And this is going to load up Kodi. And Kodi is something that can play media from your NAS or whatever else. Here we go. The file section. Add videos, browse. And you can browse your network path. I'm not going to show you how Kodi works in this video. It's beyond the scope. But if you want to get back to Batocera after you've done this, just know you can use this to link up all your media. It'll pull everything in here, like your shows, your movies, and it'll get thumbnails and everything. You need to get a pretty big SD card, in my opinion. All right, so when you're ready to pick up a Sen Pi, just head over to epicpants.com. You'll find them there with these three options. You can get them with no controllers if you've got an Xbox or PlayStation controller, or you can do 1 or 2 controllers. And the difference here is that you don't need to plug these in with a cord other than when you're charging them, but these are just wireless. And one thing I want to note is you need to be in a line of sight. If you put it like behind a wall or if you try to hide your Sen Pi somewhere, they don't really work that well. That's just the way it works. But as long as you're in line of sight, you can be like all the way across the room. I was trying it yesterday, like really far away across the room, and they work just fine with this controller. So grab that and get gaming. And then when you're over on Batocera, go to wiki.batocera to get all kinds of information if you want to get really advanced with like messing with stuff with SSH, adding new cores or something. If you want to store games on your NAS, all that information is right there. So have some fun, take a break and play some games, or play some games so much that that's what you need to take a break from. Also, don't forget to check out some of the streams, especially if you like games. It's Midnight Dojo over on Twitch. So there's twitch.tv/Midnight Dojo. You can follow, and I'll see you over there.